Hello, everybody. Football Talking News. Warren and Jeremy and Cody and Austin. I don't know why I said myself second. That was weird. Anyway, we'll talk about the awards tonight. We'll compare them to ours, and we'll talk about Carson Wentz, and then we'll preview the Super Bowl. And then that's it. All right. So, any big surprises today as far as awards go? Anybody had any big surprises? Somebody that they didn't think would win that one?
Derrick Henry not getting any MVP votes kind of surprises me.
Well, not really.
I'm a little bit surprised that Chase Young won Defensive Rookie of the Year.
Who did we pick for that? Awesome.
Patrick Queen.
Give me 1 second.
I think we did pick Patrick Queen. I think you're right.
Yes,
I didn't look at the voting, but Antoine Winfield Jr. got some votes. I saw. Justin Herbert winning Offensive Rookie of the Year, that wasn't surprising. Aaron Rodgers wasn't surprising.
For Offensive Rookie of the Year, we had James Robinson.
Yeah, but I knew Justin Herbert was going to win it. So.
I think we did an overall Rookie of the Year, and we put Herbert there. So we put Robinson as Offensive Rookie to diversify the awards.
Yes, we did. That's right. Russell Wilson winning Man of the Year. That's always the most surprising award because you never know who's going to get it. I never know what they look at for that. So it was cool, though. Russell Wilson is a good person. I like him as a person. So
Peyton Manning being inducted into the Hall of Fame was kind of surprising.
Yeah, I'm shocked. Who knew that guy had it in him?
So
I got to give you props. You kept a straight face with that statement.
Let's hear it, Warren. Who's your biggest Hall of Fame snub, Warren? I know who you're going to say.
My biggest Hall of Fame snub comes as no shock to anybody with the background I have that Zach Thomas was snubbed for the umpteenth time. Statistically speaking, his numbers are very comparable to Brian Urlacher, who's been in the Hall of Fame for I don't know how many years now at this point. They played the same position, wore the same number. Urlacher was on a slightly better team during his playing career, which I get. However, if anything, that to me makes Thomas's contributions even better because he did it with a theoretically weaker talent pool around him.
They had Jason Taylor. He went to the Hall of Fame.
He did have Jason Taylor. He had Sam Madison and Pat Surtain Sr.
He had Jason Sehorn for a year or two, didn't he?
No, Sehorn was a Giant.
No, he went to the Dolphins at the end of his career. Yeah, he did.
I don't think he synced up with Thomas, and if he did, it was not good. It was not good Sehorn, so it was more of a we're overpaying for a guy that shouldn't be there. His best years were in New York with the Giants. I just think it was his size, and Miami is a market that kind of gets overlooked with awards and kind of
I think that
credit, and hopefully he gets in, but I know his number of ballot options are dwindling down.
Well, he's going to get in eventually. I mean, there's no way he's not going to get in. He's one of the premier linebackers of that time, but it's basically the things you said. Miami wasn't good at the time. They weren't winning a lot of games. Yeah,
they were winning 8-9 games a year. They just weren't making the playoffs, or if they did, they were one and done.
Right. So, and the thing is, he played at the time when Urlacher played, and he wasn't the face of the linebacker position at any time. You look at other linebackers who got in before him, like Patrick Willis. He was the face of the position when he played, and the 49ers had a great defense, and they were competitive, and he went to a Super Bowl. Even you look at Luke Kuechly, who's probably going to get in before him, maybe.
Luke Kuechly's probably going to be first ballot.
Luke Kuechly, the face of the franchise. I had this debate with my brother. He's a Dolphins fan. And the debate was, my brother said that Zach Thomas is way better than Luke Kuechly. So I looked at it. Luke Kuechly played less years. He went to the Pro Bowl the same amount of times as Zach Thomas. He actually had the exact same amount of all-pro seasons as Zach Thomas. His statistics line up with Zach Thomas almost perfectly, and he played 6 years less than Zach Thomas. So, if you want to talk, Zach Thomas did a lot, yeah, but their numbers that other linebackers put up in half the time. I'm talking about Luke Kuechly.
Luke Kuechly ended with almost every season injured.
He did.
The one season that he wasn't injured was the Super Bowl, right? And he wasn't injured, and they made it to a Super Bowl.
So, like, Warren, let me ask you, and then I want to touch on Cody on Hall of Fame. I know he thought somebody got snubbed too. Who would you take out of the Hall of Fame this year to put in Zach Thomas? Who do you think he should have made it over?
So I didn't look at the entire list of I just heard that once Thomas was out, and I heard Peyton Manning made it, obviously, which that one nobody's gonna argue Peyton Manning shouldn't be in the Hall of Fame.
Well, let's tell our
Like-
viewers. So the list was Drew Pearson
Want me
from
to
the
read it?
Cowboys, John Lynch from the Bucks, Peyton Manning, we all knew that, Charles Woodson, Calvin Johnson, that coach from the Raiders, what was his name?
Tom Flores.
Tom Flores, Bill Nunn of the Steelers, and Alan Faneca of the Steelers. Did I miss somebody? I don't think I missed anybody. I think that's it.
So honestly, I'm not familiar enough with all of those guys to be able to say, yeah, Thomas deserved in over X guy. The only one that I'm familiar with, John Lynch from his playing days. I'm obviously familiar with Peyton Manning. A lot of those guys I'm not as familiar enough with, and I haven't done enough research on to say that. Oh yeah,
Have you
Thomas
not heard
deserves
of-
in over
Have
one.
you not heard of Calvin Johnson? Come on,
Calvin
man.
Johnson, okay, Calvin Johnson's another one. Yeah, I'm familiar with.
So I'm going to go on a limb, and I'm going to say that Calvin Johnson should have waited. His
Well,
numbers,
and that
when-
would be my only
as a
because he
per-year
didn't
thing,
play as
though.
long.
right, as a per year thing, he did great, but his numbers don't stack up against the greatest of all time. I know he cut his career short. He didn't want to stay in Detroit. I get all that. But the thing is, T.O. had to wait. T.O.'s statistically a top 3 receiver in the NFL.
But T.O.
History.
had to wait for different reasons. T.O. had to wait because he was a sideline distraction.
Yeah, but,
That's what the Hall of Fame said.
Get your popcorn
I
ready.
just feel like Calvin Johnson should have waited a little bit. Not that he should have never gotten in. I just don't think he's a first ballot Hall
Yeah,
of Fame
no,
guy.
I agree. Calvin Johnson would probably be my one, and not because Calvin Johnson's not necessarily a more talented player than Zach Thomas is, because Megatron was just a freak NFL talent. But by retiring when he did and not playing the number of years, there's nothing to say that he couldn't have started to get nagging injuries and then have the second half
Right.
of his career be very
Right.
mediocre to
Oh,
so
maybe Zach Thomas needed a cool nickname like Megatron. Maybe he just was lacking the nickname.
maybe if they had called him Optimus Prime or Starscream or something, I don't know.
So, Cody, I know you talked about something you thought should have gotten a Hall of Fame, so I'll let you touch on that.
It's the same thing that all Cowboys fans have been arguing for years, but Darren Woodson, I think, deserves to be in. He was the leader of that defense the last Super Bowl year, and the end of the dynasty. He was a lot of his stats are up there, but they're not overly outstanding. But a lot of his contributions also came through he could take away the field. He was great in coverage. He didn't give up a lot of completions. That way he could come up and play the run. But when you had a safety that cover one side of the field, quarterbacks didn't generally throw his way. So it takes away your stats when you're not getting thrown at. And a lot of his tackles he did have came from chasing people down from the other side of the field.
Fair enough. It's like I like Darren Woodson as a Cowboy. So, what other awards were there? So, the Art Rooney Award, the Sportsmanship Award, that was Teddy Bridgewater. He's a good guy. And then Coach of the Year. Coach of the Year, we got right. We picked Kevin Stefanski, and he won it.
I know
I
someone had
still-
a problem with it a little bit, though.
I still thought McDermott. So I get the Browns didn't make a playoffs for a long time, and I get that he turned the franchise around. But this is the Bills' best year since the mid '90s, since 1995. This is our first division title since 1995. Our first home playoff game since 1995. Our first AFC Championship game since 1993. So, to me, it's like,
Well, these awards are supposed to ignore the postseason.
But what more is he supposed to do? We went 13-3 and won our division for the first time in 25 years. I mean,
So I mean, and I'll agree to some extent on that. Stefanski winning, okay, fine. I think that the voting should have been closer. I don't think that there should have been that big of a gap between Stefanski and McDermott and
Yeah.
Flores. McDermott,
25 to 7 and 6.
like I think that the three of those guys were all super close, so I don't think it should have been that big of a landslide. I think, I wouldn't. I don't have an issue with any of those three winning it. I think that all three of them did excellent jobs with their teams this year, but I don't think that any one of them was that 25 to 7 to 6 above the other
Right.
ones.
Right. So, not
Okay,
surprisingly,
So when
go ahead.
when we talk about the Browns, though, what do we normally talk about?
How
Top
garbage they are.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5 picks.
Yeah, you're not
so
wrong.
I
But
think
last year,
I think,
what was the big thing
I
about the
think
Browns last year was that they had such a talented roster and they just underperformed. So getting
And this is
the
what I was telling you
production
earlier,
out of a
Cody.
talent level is
Right. But what I was telling you earlier
right,
is
but
that
I think
they had the coaching was the problem last year. Yes, okay, so he came and he turned around, and I get it. No, I understand that point, but like they were a good coach away from the playoffs last year.
right, but I think that turning point in the voting for this is that he turned it around without having the offseason to do it. And McDermott's been in Buffalo for 3 or 4
4
years
years.
now, right?
4 years.
Yeah. Flores has been in Miami for what, 2 now?
This
So I
was the
mean, the
second year.
systems are already in place. The systems are already in place there. They didn't have a major overhaul like what Cleveland had, and I think that's what turned the voting in his favor.
Well, I mean, if you want to
So-
talk about massive overhauls, we had a rookie QB coming in. We had a brand new offensive like you can make. There was a lot of turnover. You had a major receiver change in offensive philosophy with Stephon Diggs coming into Buffalo. Like there was some
Yeah,
big
but our
changes in both of those.
So what I would say, I agree with you, Cody, that it is more impressive because they didn't have an offseason, because he didn't have an offseason to condition or implement his system. They had to do it on the fly, which you're not wrong about. And Warren is right about Stephon Diggs. That did change the Bills' offense completely because we went from a run-first offense to a pass-first offense. But it's easy to do when you have 4 or 5 receivers who can get open. I get it. To me, the biggest thing
Cole
in
Beasley's
Cleveland
never
this year
covered.
was Baker figured out that he doesn't have to be a hero. Like if he plays as a game manager and he doesn't turn the ball over and they run the ball well, which they did all season.
Well, when you've got
he's
the
not
best
gonna
running
lose.
back tandem in the league, it doesn't take
Right.
Vince
But
Lombardi to realize hand the
it-
ball off to these guys and I'm going to be
it took-
successful.
But it did take Baker until this season to realize that he doesn't have to do it all and that he can just manage the game and not turn the ball over and they'll win. Like last year, that was the biggest problem. He played hero ball a lot. I mean, so did Josh Allen. But I think they have to continue to develop Baker in that role. And, I liked it. I like it. But I guess I just was surprised when I saw it was 25 to 7. Like,
Yeah, my issue is the margin of voting. I think it should have been closer.
so to play on the Bills' offense, they did win Assistant Coach of the Year for offensive coordinator Brian Daboll. Well deserved. That offense went from a bottom 5 unit in points and yards to a top 5 unit, both in points and yards. So that was deserved to me. What's funny to me is these coaches who win these awards and teams are unwilling to wait for them for head coaching jobs. Like he interviewed for 4 places and nobody wanted to wait for him. Nobody wanted to wait another week. So they all hired people before he was even available.
So I think with that, it's not, and it's a little bit of a not wanting to wait, but I think it's a little bit of a fear thing because the problem is let's say that I'm a team like a Houston or a Philly, I've got a coaching vacancy, and I'm trying to hold out for your OC and he would be a great fit. But the problem is what if he goes to, let's say I'm Houston and Austin's Philly, and let's say he goes to Philly and now I've got nobody because all the other candidates already filled their spots. So there's a little fear of well, if I don't get somebody, I'd rather take second place than 8th place.
Let me play
On the
devil's
coaching-
advocate, though. The last 2 teams, he interviewed in Houston. I mean, Houston had nobody to compete with. They were the last team to hire.
I wouldn't be shocked if he walked away from Houston and said, "I don't want to be a part of that mess."
Maybe he did. What were you gonna say, Cody?
I was gonna say on this coaching carousel thing, you guys know I listen to 105.3 The Fan an unhealthy amount of the time, and Brian Broaddus was talking on one of the shows about how Andy Reid wanted Eric Bieniemy to get a job so he could turn the offensive coordinator job over to Mike Kafka and start grooming him. The problem is Eric Bieniemy wasn't going to go to Houston. I almost guarantee that. Houston was probably as undesirable as what Philly was, if not more so. And
I think that you're right. Well, see, Philly is more desirable now. Something we'll talk about in a few minutes. But so now I want to end the awards talk with something that we debated, and we'll probably debate again, is the defensive player of the year. So I don't think that there was a snub. I think that Aaron Donald is the best defensive player in the league. I think he takes on doubles and triples teams more than anybody. His sack numbers are there. People expect his numbers to be that of TJ Watt to win, but he's not. He doesn't play the same position, and he's not on the same defense as TJ Watt. But I think that Aaron Donald is the best defensive player in the league. Let's go around so we don't interrupt each other too much. And we'll start with Austin because you haven't talked yet. Austin, do you think that he deserved it, or do you think that there was a snub and somebody else should have won it?
I think he's the best player in the league, and he literally elevates everyone on that defense. Like, there's two people we know on that defense, and it's Aaron Donald in the front and Jalen Ramsey in the back, and everyone else we're like, who is that guy?
Well, I mean, I know a few more people, but yes, I understand what you're saying. I get what
Basically,
you yes,
he's taking
I get what you mean.
he's taking like 2 or 3 people on at a time and still making it into the backfield. They're still affecting the play. And if you see the games where they don't game plan for him and they're like, we'll just ignore him or try to run him down, he destroys those games. It's those games where he has like 2 sacks,
Right.
a ton of tackles, a forced fumble. Like, you
We're
can't
talking about him destroying Buffalo too.
you can't just ignore someone who does those things. And
All right, Warren, what do you think?
So I don't have a problem with Donald winning the award. He's a monster. He's a beast. My issue with it came to the disparity of the voting. Xavier Howard was 10 picks. We haven't seen that in 15, 16 years, and got 3 out of 50 votes. Like, I don't have a problem with Donald winning it. I think that Howard should have been higher in the vote count. I think it should have been a lot closer in that margin of victory or margin of voting. Very similarly to the coach of the year. I think my issue came more with the margin of the vote than the outcome of the vote.
What about you, Cody? What do you think?
I think Dontari Poe should have won it.
Who? Who?
it took me a second. I was like, wait, what? And then I remember.
Hey, I want Nick Bonacounty.
Dontari Poe.
I want you to say it away.
No, I agreed with the voting. I was kind of like Warren, a little surprised it was as much of a difference as what it was in the voting. But I mean, you can't watch Aaron Darnold and not think that he deserves it.
I thought this was going to be a little bit hotter than we made it.
on the other hand, 10 interceptions is relatively impressive, but with those 10 interceptions, you also got to look at the completions given up and everything else outside of that. I mean, we've talked about this before. Interceptions are the sexy numbers. The completion percentage against that.
Right. You're right. Well, to Xavier Howard's credit, he did give up like 44%. So, I mean, he didn't give up a high completion percentage. It was low. But I just don't think of Xavier Howard as a game changer like Aaron Donald. So, I'm going to talk about the Bills because it's all I know. I watched all 3 players play the Bills. TJ Watt was non-existent, right? He was non-existent. Xavier Howard had 1 pick in the 2 games against the Bills, but he got torched by John Brown. He got beat deep by Gabe Davis, our rookie. He got beat again deep by Gabe Davis. So the Bills had their way with Xavier Howard. He wasn't a game changer. He did have a pick, but he wasn't a game changer. When we played Aaron Donald, he had 3 sacks and 2 forced fumbles, all in the second half, and he almost That second forced fumble almost won the game for the Rams because they went down and scored and took the lead. Luckily, we scored at the end, but like he was a game changer. He wrecked our offensive line and he wrecked Josh Allen. Josh
And-
Allen got called for a face mask against Aaron Donald.
Xavier Howard almost swung the game against the Chiefs in the Dolphins' favor, though.
He did.
So,
He
kind
he
of
did, but it wasn't just him though. He had one of the picks, but who had the first pick? Eric Rowe or was it
I
Byron
believe so.
Jones? I mean,
But
the thing
he had
about Xavier
Howard had the pick in the fourth quarter that sparked the comeback. That
This is
one handed OBJ style, not as impressive as
yeah.
an OBJ catch, but it was the one handed
remember.
lean back style. That was what sparked that comeback.
And to me, the thing about Xavier Howard is that he plays the second receiver. Byron Jones was corner one, and he was going against the ones. He was on Stephon Diggs. He was on the best receiver on the other team. And Xavier Howard was playing the second and third receivers. So it wasn't as impressive to me as like.
And I mean, maybe part of it for me too is to kind of play devil's advocate. Is obviously I watched Xavier Howard a lot this year. Miami didn't play Pittsburgh, so I didn't see T.J. Watt play at all. I watched Aaron Donald play once against Miami, and it was his worst game of the season. He had
that sack fumble though.
He had one relevant play, and that was the sack fumble onto his first drop back. And you take that out, he had two tackles, one assist the rest of the game. So for a defensive player of the year, that's a very, very subpar game. And it was a game that the Rams got absolutely obliterated in and wasn't as close as the score indicated. So part of that to me is that the one time I did watch him, he was not a game changer. He did not affect the outcome, and he was probably the bright spot of a abysmal performance from a team perspective for the Rams.
So let's play devil's advocate. Well, that was Goff. Goff killed that game for the Rams. He kept turning the ball over.
I think it was more Flores' scheme, because the last time Flores had played again or coached against Goff was also in the Super Bowl with the Patriots, and we saw what that defense did to the Rams in the Super Bowl too. So I think Flores just very similar to where Buffalo seems to have Miami's number. I think Flores has McVay's scheme. He's got something figured out.
We don't play that division this year. I thought we played that division. Miami would play it, but not this year. That's next year. All right. So, lastly, before we talk about Carson Wentz, is there anybody close to Aaron Donald as far as defensive linemen in the league, or is he like up and away the best?
I mean, it's hard to compare tackles to ends too. They do two. We talked about it before. They do two different things. One gets flashier stats because they're on the edge rushing, whereas the middle guy's soaking up the double teams and the triple teams. So it's like
yes or no? Is there a defensive lineman in the league better than him?
Better? No, I don't think so.
No.
I mean,
I don't think there's a defensive player better than him, as I've talked about.
Yeah, I'm pretty high on him too. I don't think there's a defensive player better than him too. What do you think, Cody?
I'm sure someone's got an argument, but just from a sheer standpoint of what he does, I don't think so. I mean, I did watch him take my entire offensive line and throw them on their faces, so it was.
I remember that play. All right, so before we talk about the Super Bowl, big news came out earlier today that Carson Wentz is getting his wish for a trade. He wants a trade anyways, regardless of who the new coach is, and they're granting that trade right there. And Carson Wentz is linked to a few teams. I heard Chicago. I heard the 49ers. They're linked to everybody. I hear the Colts. They're linked to everybody. I know, Cody, you have a unique, distinct landing spot and a trade in mind. What was that?
Yeah, so this is off of 105.3 The Fan, and Brian Broaddus has his GMs that he talks to. He has a gang of 7. That's actually 8 because someone else joined it. But they're talking the Bears and the Colts as the top 2 spots. But other GMs came in and said, keep an eye on the Raiders. Or keep an eye out on the Raiders. I know you're hearing this and this, but watch out for them.
So Mike Mayock and John Gruden going to make a move, huh?
Gruden hates Carr for some reason. I don't know why Gruden hates Carr, but Gruden is not a fan of Derek Carr.
I knew that. Remember I told you guys I thought he might be on the move this offseason when we talked about quarterbacks.
Yep. Yeah. So They didn't get into any of the trade specifics a lot of the times.
So give me a trade for you.
But
Give
I
me
was
a trade.
thinking, I'm trying to remember what I said now. I think it was Carr for Wentz. Was it swap first?
Yeah, it was swap first. That's what she said. Yeah.
Can't remember what the other one was. And maybe a third in there.
My big thing about the Eagles trading, they have to eat $33 million in dead cap. Like,
Well, if you swap first, that puts the Raiders up into the top 10 though too, and they can take some of that contract. If that when they're saying they want a Stafford like package, I'm reading, but underneath the lines here as
they
you
want somebody to
someone
take the contract.
Yeah.
Yeah, like they did for Stafford and Wentz, like they did for Goff. That's what I meant.
Yeah, like we talked about, like Stafford isn't worth 2 firsts, but it was gonna take an additional first for someone to pay Goff to stay the fuck out of Los Angeles.
So it's like this. So I think the Eagles are going to have to give up a pick. So I think if somebody gives them a first, they're at least going to have to give back a second because of the contract. So what do you think, Austin, and team? Do you have in mind?
A team to take the contract for Wentz?
Yeah.
I'd say the Colts. Colts have the second most cap space, if I remember that correctly, and like Frank Wright was connected there. So if we're saying
that was my connection, because Frank Reich was the offensive coordinator in Philly when Wentz had his best year.
So we say that he goes there. They re-signed T.Y. Hilton to a small deal, and then they bring in
Godwin was their biggest target.
Yeah, so say they bring in Godwin or break my heart. Say they bring in Godwin or oh my god, his Detroit receiver. Blanking on
Galladay. Kenny Galladay.
Yeah, Kenny Galladay. I kept wanting to say Devontae Adams, but that's not right. Kenny Galladay.
What about Juju? Maybe Juju. Even.
I mean, that guy's pretty awesome. You get Devontae Adams, you're not going to be upset.
Hey, you bring him in.
So what is
you're acting
realistically
like
what are the Colts going to give up for Wentz?
What's
Austin,
10?
What do you think that they're going to give up?
Oh, to get Wentz, probably their first, and so like for the Colts to get Wentz, or for the Eagles to get someone to take Wentz.
For the Colts to get Wentz, what do you think they have to give up?
Probably their first, because their first is late, so you'd say their first and then like a second or a third. But the Eagles are probably going to have to give something back for them to want to take on.
Yeah, I was thinking like they'd either have to swap firsts or like give back a third if they get a first.
Yeah, or something of that extent, because $33 million is a lot of dollars for a quarterback was ranked 31st.
But Frank Reich loves Carson Wentz, and he thinks that he can get a lot out of him. So,
Wentz also only throws to tight end, so you don't need a wide receiver anyway.
That's true. They need a tight end though, because they don't have one. Hey, what about
Jack Doyle?
They do, but he didn't play well this year. What about a reunion with Zach Ertz? I hear that he wants to be moved. Do you think that they could also acquire him? Maybe like a
so if the Colts
quarterback tight end combo,
it might make the deal more enticing to throw in a tight end for them to take the contract and give something up in return.
Because the Eagles have Dallas Goedert, who I like as much as Ertz. I mean, he's okay. He's pretty good. But
recently, in the last 2 years, I believe he played better than Ertz.
What about Warren? Give me a team and a price.
I mean, so I'm not a fan of Wentz. I don't think he's that good. The Super Bowl run, granted he had a decent regular season, but Foles was the one that did everything in the postseason, and Foles is another discussion altogether because obviously he's been up and down. But I'm not high on Carson Wentz. I'm especially not high on him at his insane salary right now. Given that I think Indy might be the best fit because they do have a very good defense. They have a solid running game, so you can put him in a situation where he doesn't have to hero ball it. He can hand it off. He's got a solid tight end. I think that Rivers coming in this year, there was some adjustment period, no offseason, no chance to kind of mesh and gel. So, Indy's probably the best fit for him, especially given their cap space, but I'm not high on Wentz, period.
Right.
So
fair enough. I'm not high on Wentz either, but I like you guys. I think Indy's the best spot. I mean, Frank Reich knows Carson Wentz. He's played for Frank Reich before. He knows the offensive system that Frank Reich likes to run. And Frank Reich is the only coach right now who maybe feels like Carson Wentz is coachable. I also saw a trade earlier. It was like for Chicago for Tariq Cohen and Nick Foles, and then they traded firsts or something like that. But Tariq Cohen came on Twitter and said that he's not being traded. He talked to his coaches, so that's not happening apparently. But that trade didn't really make sense to me either. But yeah, so 3 Indies and 1 Raiders. Now, the Raiders are intriguing to me because I think they're going to want to move on from Carr, but I don't think Wentz is their guy.
I thought they wanted Watson.
They do. Everybody wants Watson, though. Literally, everybody.
But like they're the ones who I give 3 firsts for him is what John Gruden was like, and John Gruden was like on the PFF podcast, and I know like they're just interesting to listen to, and he was like, "Yeah, Deshaun Watson is probably the best quarterback I ever see. He doesn't read defenses like Derek Carr though," and he was like trying to shop Derek Carr as like great, like worth a first round pick.
Derek Carr, I think
You're
Derek Carr
actively
is worth
wanting
the
to get rid
first.
of him.
I saw something interesting that I shared with you guys, that Derek Carr is on the trade block and that they want to get 2 firsts for him, and then they want to flip those 2 firsts and their first this year next year for Watson. I heard that, and I saw it on Twitter. You know, I think that would be intriguing. Do you think like the Texans would listen to that 4 firsts?
Well, right now they're not listening to anything. They're just hanging up the phone on people. And
Well, they are. Yes.
I
But you
think
think 4 firsts is enough to get them on the phone?
we'd have to say 4 firsts right as soon as they picked up.
4 firsts. 4 firsts.
Yeah, I think, and I've touched on it before in the chat with you guys, that I think that, you know, Houston recognizes that Bill O'Brien sold the farm and made countless horrible trades. And now Houston's going to try to get every single one of those trades back in the Watson trade. And I'm not saying give Watson away for a first. Like, he's going to command the market. But right now they are so pricing themselves out of it. And I think that to some extent they're causing more harm than good, because you're going to hit a point where you're either going to carry a guy that's going to hold out or retire and you're going to get nothing, or you can move him and at least get a couple of pieces for your new coach.
I think he's going to Carson Palmer them. If they do not trade him, I think he'll sit out. And I think a lot of his
I don't agree with that. I know you all are on that, Ben, that he's going to sit out if they don't trade him.
He said he was going to. So
Yeah.
He said it, but he didn't say anything. So this is my take. It's all sources close to him. Deshaun Watson himself has said nothing. He said nothing about the situation.
Well, he's officially
never
requesting
said-
trade, so he said
But
something.
he never said himself that he would sit out if they didn't trade him. He never
Well,
said himself that he's not going to play for Houston ever again. It's always sources close. So we don't
Well, that's like
know.
Dak's mouthpiece is his brother, so
But
maybe Deshaun
but
has
we
his
don't-
mouthpiece.
Sometimes it's being said as I don't want to come out and say it and get the negative publicity saying
because
I'm the one saying it,
we
so he's
don't
having
have-
somebody else say it for him.
Yeah, he's
Well, we
getting
don't
roasted.
know for certain where his head is at. We don't know for certain that he's not going to play if they don't trade him. Houston seems to think, and I don't know if they're being naive, if they're trying to drive up the price, but Houston seems to think that if they don't trade him, that he will play. The GM's come out and said it multiple times that Deshaun Watson is going to play for Houston next year.
Well, what's the GM going to say? If the GM says no, he's going to hold out, they lose all leverage.
But it's like,
Because Deshaun Watson hasn't even talked to them. Deshaun Watson
not yet.
like ending
But
their
Deshaun Watson hasn't talked to anybody. He hasn't talked to the media yet. I mean, he has not officially said anything.
The only
Like, you know,
person
like
he
when
talked to
like
is DeAndre Hopkins about
Carson Wentz, for instance, when he made his trade request, he made it publicly. And he talked to the media
Carson
himself.
Wentz was pretty good about going to the media and complaining. So
Yeah, but that's it. That's what I mean. Like, he went to the media himself and forced his way out. And quarterbacks have done that a bunch. If Deshaun Watson really wants out, why isn't he speaking? Why isn't he coming forward and saying, I want out?
that's not the person.
Trade me now.
Maybe he's trying to do it behind closed doors, whereas Wentz likes the publicity.
Yeah, like Wentz is like the spoiled child. Like Wentz is the child who needs all of the attention, where Deshaun Watson's kind of like in the background, like, oh yeah, I want out too.
but
But
get my attention from afar.
guess what kid gets all the attention? Guess what kids get traded and what one might not? Like if he wants, and I'm not saying he doesn't want to be traded, and I'm not saying that he's not saying these things, but I'm just saying like if he wants to be traded, if he wants to be the kid that gets out, then he's got to say it like himself publicly. He's got to go, he's got to do a story or talk to the media or talk to somebody himself, not sources. Like that's my thing. If he really wants out, he's got to say he wants out to get out.
We're
You know what I mean? Like, you think if he publicly comes out and says, I want to be traded, I'm not playing for Houston himself, then they have no choice. Like, they don't have a choice. But sources could be misleading. Sources could be wrong. Like, sources said that Tariq Cohen was getting traded today, and apparently his coaches say he's not.
Officially requesting a trade, which he did officially request the trade, is pretty much saying, I don't want to be here.
Who says he officially requested the trade? Because last time I checked,
His
Houston
agent.
says he didn't request a trade. What I'm saying is, like, Adam Schefter and other media outlets say that sources say that Deshaun Watson requested a trade. But like I said, with Carson Wentz, with other quarterbacks who wanted out, they themselves said they wanted a trade. We haven't heard from Deshaun Watson at all. He hasn't been around. He said all that he said himself is that he's pissed off that he went from 2 to 10. So as far as like officially requesting a trade, if he hasn't talked to Houston, how did he officially request a trade? There's contradicting stories all over the place. The
His
story said he
agent-
never
it
talked to
said it
Houston, that he hasn't talked to
for
Houston
his
this whole
agent.
offseason. But if he, well, no, the story said that him and his team haven't talked to Houston at all this offseason. So if him and his team haven't talked to Houston, how did they request a trade? Like,
That's not what I've read. I've read that the agent has been in talks with, what's his name, the priest dude, Easterby. Is that his name? That the
Yeah.
agent has talked to him and said Deshaun Watson's wishes, and the only reason it's coming out now or something is because the agent decided to share the story, which doesn't make a lot of sense because that agent has always kind of been saying things as soon as it happens. But I haven't heard the agent isn't talking to anybody because the agent's going to do what's best for Deshaun Watson, or he's not
Right.
going to be his agent.
but my thing is like, go ahead.
Houston says a lot of things that aren't true anyway. Houston
Well,
also doesn't
every
say a
team
lot of
does.
things that are true.
Every team does. But it's like,
Houston thought that like trading DeAndre Hopkins was a good idea, and then was like, "Don't judge us yet."
so
I
the thing
think,
is like, I just feel like
I wish Miami had sent a fifth over to Arizona for Hopkins.
if it's,
Did you have
if
a
it's
washed
not-
up running back you could give?
A bunch.
all I'm saying is that I don't know if it's Houston just giving themselves the leverage because they want more, but they're pretty convincing in saying over and over again that they're not interested and they're hanging up on teams. And it's not just them; other GMs are saying that they're not listening. Like they're saying they're not
Well-
going to trade him. So everybody calls and they say they're not going to trade him and don't talk. They're not
Bengals
even
did the same
listening
thing
to
to
offers
Carson
right now.
Palmer. Bengals did the same exact thing to Carson Palmer, and Carson Palmer just was like, "Okay, I'll retire." And then eventually, just came back. They got traded to Oakland.
Yeah, he had a bad year in Oakland that year. Though.
He did. And
That was not good.
he came back in Arizona because he like Larry Fitzgerald in his prime.
Everybody
He
had
was
a
pretty
bad
good in
year
Arizona.
Oakland at that time.
Yeah.
I do like Carson Palmer in Arizona. And I'm not saying Deshaun Watson's not getting out. I'm just saying, like, it's going to be interesting to watch. I want to wait to see if he publicly says something. I want to see what he says.
I want him to come to the stand and be like, "I hate Bill O'Brien. I hate the Texans. Trade me," and then end the meeting. Or I'm just
Right,
here if I don't get fined.
I just want to hear him say it. Like, that would satisfy everything I need. I just need to hear him say, I want out. I'm not playing for Houston. Not even that he wants to be traded, because people say they want to be traded all the time, but they still play. But I want to hear him say, personally, I'm not going to play in Houston ever again. Like, I want to hear it come out of his mouth. And then
I don't know if he's built that way though.
Yeah, he's always been the kind of guy to like point the drama away from him, and
I know he is. And I mean, that's what I like. It's also what I like about him, but it's what I don't like about the situation because we don't really know. But it's what I like about Deshaun Watson is that he's a good guy.
He reminds
But-
me of a lot of Andrew Luck, like in a weird way. They seem very similar, where they're both playing
Andrew
for
Luck just retired, so
shitty organizations, and like they weren't gonna make a big deal out of it. Like Andrew
Andrew
Luck,
Luck thing. He's
he
a good dude, but what he did at Indy was kind of shitty. Like I think what Andrew Luck did to Indy was like shitty. Like he waited till like a week before the season started to like fucking just retire.
he didn't know he was gonna retire. He wanted to try the first preseason game. That's why he retired after the first preseason game.
But it's like
Also, in his
man,
defense, how many injuries and like neck injury? Like he
Yeah,
had
but,
some
like,
serious stuff. Like
the thing about it is like they didn't bring in another quarterback besides Brissett because he didn't tell them that he was thinking about retiring. He didn't even tell them it was a possibility. Like they knew nothing about it until he did it. And that
if they
shit
were going to
leaked in
cut
the
him, were
middle-
they going to tell him in March? They were thinking about cutting him in August.
they're not going to cut Andrew Luck.
Yeah,
But-
it's a
But if a
bet.
player's going to get cut, are they going to tell you in March that they're thinking about cutting you in
No,
August?
because you got to make the team. I don't. That's a
It's a
that's
business.
different.
Like we
though.
all hear the NFL is a business from the team side. Like when your team
But-
cuts, if the
No.
Patriots would have cut Tom Brady, we would have
I'm
heard
not
it's
saying-
a business all the time.
I guess I said it wrong. Maybe it came out wrong. Like I don't think he's a bad person for doing it. I just think like he put the Colts in a bad position. Is what I'm
He
saying.
did,
Like
but the point of that is that conversely,
You
the
guys-
Colts would
you
not
guys
hesitate to
remember-
put a player in a bad position either.
do
So
you
yeah,
remember
the
when
Colts
that
been in a shit
when that
position.
came out? Do you remember when it came out? He was playing in a preseason game when the story broke that he retired. It was in the middle of a game.
Yeah, he was on the sideline. He went over to the sideline. He's like, "Nah, I can't do it anymore."
Well, no,
he
no,
was
no.
literally
like,
like
it broke
bobbing,
on
and then
Twitter.
the Indy fans booed,
It broke on Twitter, and yeah, the fans booed him.
which is
'Cause they were in Indy.
disgusting.
Well,
That is-
no, he went over to the sideline though and pretty much said it. He's like, "Yeah, I can't do it anymore." So
Yeah, I
and
know
then
he
it
did,
got
but
leaked. It got leaked
all
farther
over
than what
Twitter.
it was supposed to.
it
it
went
wasn't supposed to
everywhere.
come out that way.
Like people in the fans, like he just retired. I see him right there, but he just retired.
I hope the
Like, yeah.
Colts never win a playoff game for 50 fucking years for their fans booing Andrew Luck. Like, you murdered the dude. His kidneys were eviscerated. There was like videos of him unable to get out of
Not
bed.
worse than fans in Philly throwing snowballs at Santa Claus. I mean,
Well,
come on.
Philly
I mean,
fans aren't human. We know this. Like, Colts fans booed a man who gave them
Making my Lions
everything.
I remember what game was it? Was it Seattle? Yeah, it was in Seattle. And well, who was? I think it was Patrick Willis or Navarro Bowman. One of the linebackers got hurt, and the fans were cheering. Like that's even shittier to me than booing somebody retiring. Like fans who cheer injuries are terrible people.
Well, Philly fans cheered Michael Irvin's neck injury.
I remember
Philly
that.
fans aren't people, and I'm a
What's that?
I know
was
you're
that
stealing my
Seattle-
line here, though.
Was that in Seattle though? That was in Seattle, right? I think it was Seattle against the Niners. Somebody got hurt on one side. I know it was a linebacker for the
It was
49ers.
Willis, I'm pretty sure.
Was it Willis? It was either
That
him
year,
or Bowman.
it was when Willis missed that year. I thought
There was a play in the
He
playoffs
tore his
where,
ACL. I remember that he tore his ACL, whatever it was.
it's the play where he went to get the interception, right, or the fumble, and he tore his ACL and the MCL,
Yes.
and the fans started
Yeah.
cheering, and he got
Yes.
a rule named after him.
Yes. Because they were cheering as he was like exiting the field. He was like on a fucking cart crying his eyes out, and they were cheering. Like, come on, man. Don't do that. It's disrespectful. This man,
all the fans. were
he
cheering.
gives his sweat blood for this sport. It's not his fault the 49ers drafted him. He didn't choose to go there. Patrick Willis, that is. I mean, they drafted him and he spent his career there. But it's like, come on, he just plays for a team you don't like. Doesn't mean I don't want Tua to break his leg. I never wanted Tom Brady to get seriously injured. I mean, that would be
See,
shitty.
that's the funny thing. Like
Not seriously
Like-
injured.
in the game, I'm like, fucking break his fucking leg, and then if someone gets hurt, then I feel bad about it. I'm like, no, I didn't mean literally.
I think we've
Right.
all yelled things at the opposing team in the heat of watching a game, but there's a difference
Right.
between like yelling it in the moment and actually meaning
Right.
it, or
So there
going
was
like,
this-
"Yes, that's so great, he got hurt." You're like, "Oh crap, that."
I'm
that's
not gonna say during the live stream tomorrow if Dominican
We-
Sue gets to hit Patrick Mahomes, I'm not gonna be screaming. I hope his fucking leg's broken. Like,
but it's like I saw. Oh, this is a couple years ago.
Let me
This one
step
Tony
on it,
Romo
make
played,
sure.
and it was my birthday, and we went to a bar. And we were watching the Giants and Cowboys, and I was with two Giants fans and my brother. He's a Dolphins fan. And Tony Romo got hurt. He hurt his leg or some shit. And they were cheering loudly. And I just went off on calling them pieces of shit and stuff. I was drunk too.
About to
But
put other people through
Even
be
though
fair.
Eli has the Super Bowls, Romo was the better quarterback.
Romo's on
I-
the ballot for next year.
I do believe that Romo was the better quarterback. Romo's not going to get in first ballot, though, unfortunately.
No way.
All right, so we can start
He literally
Our-
broke his back for the team.
our Super Bowl preview. It got started a little bit when you were talking about Stu not breaking Mahomes' legs. I hope he doesn't break his legs. But first, let's start off with key matchups to watch in this Super Bowl. Cody, give me a key matchup.
Buccaneers pass rush versus the Chiefs banged up offensive line.
Do you think they're going to hit home?
I think they're going to try to. I don't know if Kansas City
Isn't
this
that-
year has kind of proved that they can play the old school Patriots ball, drop back, get the ball out right away.
Yeah, but doesn't that help Mahomes? I mean, if he has to roll out, I mean, he's the best quarterback, one of the best quarterbacks on the run.
How's his toe?
Yeah, that's what we don't know.
I
We don't
haven't
know.
heard anything about it all week. Like, I've looked and I haven't heard anything
They're
about
not
it
gonna
at all
say
this week.
anything. They're not going to say anything though. Like they're not going to go ahead and be like, "Oh yeah, his toe is still bugging him," because that'll like Todd
Right.
Bowles is going to be like, "All right, so I'm going to blitz 10 men and
Send him off.
Do not blitz Mahomes.
No, he's the best quarterback against the blitz. Do not blitz Mahomes.
I don't think so. I've watched like so much film on this, and a big player in the game is Vita Vea. He was not in the first game, and he takes the double and triple teams and he eats them. Like he doesn't eat the triple teams like Aaron Donald eats the triple teams, but he makes plays on the triple teams. And we were ranked the best run game without him, and with him, he's going to be a big deal. And we saw us almost come back because they couldn't run the ball to run out the clock. Like they were having Tyreek Hill run the ball to end that game. Like
So-
Tyreek Hill.
I think Carl Davis is a weak point, though. So, I mean,
Carlton Davis, I think
Carl.
he's
Give
not
me-
going to be allowed to be lined up one-on-one. And Jamal Dean was out that game, and Jamal Dean is our fastest cornerback.
Give me a matchup then, Cody. Not Cody, Austin, that you think is key to this game.
Travis Kelce picking on Devin White. Devin White's terrible in coverage. So if Travis
Oh
Kelce, if Travis Kelce can just get open, like if they just run a fade,
plant boy.
then
Yeah.
into the middle of the field where Devin White's supposed to be. Devin White's going to be over here picking flowers.
Crossing
Right.
route.
So
Travis Kelce's going to eat us.
we'll go with Warren first.
So yeah,
matchup.
mine was Kelsey versus the defense, especially if that front line is able to get any pressure on Mahomes. He's looking to get rid of the ball quickly. He's got the best tight end in the league, one of the best tight ends of all time. That's probably when all said and done, he's going to be one of the best of all time at the position. Are they able to contain him? Because the problem with KC is it's one of those teams where it's like, oh great, we contained Tyreek Hill and crap, Kelsey beat us. Oh, we got Kelsey locked down. Well, Hill and then Hardman got a punt return. Like there's so many weapons trying to contain them all, but I think Kelsey's going to be the guy that if
Right.
they're able to use him, especially if Mahomes' toe is still banged up and affecting him, those quick routes going to that big guy that can go up and get a ball is going to be a huge weapon for them if they can take advantage of that. So
So
I'm going Kelsey.
I'm going to look at a different matchup. So the first time around, Tyreek Hill got off to that really hot start and killed the Bucks. Killed them.
Oh, that's
Deep
right. That was a
every time.
backflip game, right?
Yeah.
the back.
So what I
throw a
anticipate
better
that
one.
the Bucks are going to do is
Perfect.
they're gonna play deep safeties. They have to. The safeties are going to have to help. Winfield Jr. or I don't know the other safety, but
Sean
they're going to
Murphy
have to help.
punting.
Yeah, they're going to have to help deep
Beast.
on Hill. Are they good coverage? Because one of them might get stuck with Hill if he gets
They're,
past the
they're
corner.
both really good in coverage, and they both hit really fucking hard. He's gonna pay for every.
They're going to have to play deep safeties, which they didn't do last time, and keep the game in front of them, which is what the Bills did the first time. They didn't do well the second time.
So
They're going to have to tackle. So it's the safeties versus in coverage. I think the safeties are going to play a big part in this game in coverage because last time the DBs got beat badly.
Also, if they play deep, then that leaves the middle of the field open for Warren and Austin's matchup with Kelsey against the middle of the
No,
defense.
well, like, it goes back to what Austin said about the linebackers being able to cover Kelsey.
One of the good things we did do against Kelsey is we saw what the Raiders were doing, where Max Crosby, that's their defensive end, right?
Yes.
He'd be on the side where Kelsey is, and Kelsey would go out in his route, and Max Crosby would chip him, like how the tight end is supposed to, just to slow down his route just a little bit as he's coming off the edge. And Shaq Barrett did it a lot, or he'd drop into coverage like on to Travis Kelsey, and Travis Kelsey had one of his worst games playing against us because of
when
that.
we played the Chiefs last week, that's all Tony Romo kept saying the whole game. You guys will get Tony Romo again. I love Tony Romo, but that's all he kept saying all game. Chip him off the line, because we weren't doing it, and he was eating us up. But that's key. Also, yeah, they have to get him on the line. They have to slow down his route.
I don't think Clyde Edwards-Helaire is going to be impactful at all in this game because of, and like everyone's talking about their running backs, but teams could not run against, like the only player who had over 100 rushing yards, I believe, was Dalvin Cook.
What about the Tampa Bay running game? So another key to beat the Chiefs, in my opinion, is to keep them off the field and keep possession. But you have to end up with points, touchdowns. So do you think Tampa Bay is going to be able to run the ball well against the Chiefs defense?
It depends who we start, because Ronald Jones had a monster day against Kansas City. Well, he had a lot of really good long runs. Like he had a 35-yard run that got called back because one of our guards or something was holding or something. He ate off of just the plays he was getting. But if it's Leonard Fournette did not do good in that game, because Leonard Fournette's more of like the power back that he will run through you, and he just wasn't able to run through Chris Jones. Where Ronald Jones is more of the out of the backfield. He's going to get the ball, and he's going to juke Chris Jones out.
So my concern with Tampa Bay, and my biggest concern on their side is, as Tom Brady has shown here again recently, that at night it gets past his bedtime and he starts playing a little poorer. He's had a tendency to turn the ball over a little bit more often than I would like to see. I don't think he can have 3 interceptions in a row against Kansas City's offense and the defense bail him out again.
Right. So my thing is, I think you're right. What else is Tom Brady not like? Pressure up the middle, and they have a disruptor in Chris Jones. He's going to eat those double teams, and he's going to get.
And Chris Jones also didn't make the mistake that Washington made, where they were talking about how excited they were to sit there and go and hit him and go up the middle. Which, I mean, I get that Chase Young is a young talent, but you don't give Brady bulletin board material like that.
But they kind of did at the beginning of the season, and they have made a lot of snide comments, and
my favorite player in this game is Mike Evans. I really want to see Mike Evans win a Super Bowl.
I think Tom Brady, back to what Cody said, sorry to interrupt you, but I wanted to say it before I forgot. I think Tom Brady has to play like Alex Smith in this game. I don't think Tom Brady can play Tom Brady, because Tom Brady playing like Tom Brady will end up with a miscommunication, because they still are a new team. They have been together for 1 year. I'm
going to say this. I don't think they should run Bruce Arians' offense. I think they should run the offense that the Patriots ran for Tom Brady with the short passes.
That's what they've been doing.
Yeah, Bruce Arians likes to remember take shots.
What down it is.
Not the Super Bowl. We paid the refs.
Yeah, Bruce Arians loves to take shots down the field, and they can't do that, because even if you score too quickly, I mean, you can't keep up with the Chiefs. You have to keep the ball, and you have to keep getting first downs.
And I think that's why Leonard Fournette is going to be more important, because Leonard Fournette's our passing back, because Ronald Jones has cinders for hands, apparently. Dude cannot catch a pass. Where Leonard Fournette, you throw him a pass, he gets 2 or 3 yards because he can run after contact.
Right.
And I think that'll be really important for us. Excuse me, wow. Super Bowl's getting me excited. I think the key matchup's going to be Tyrann Mathieu, because Tyrann Mathieu is, I'd probably say he's the second best defensive player in the NFL, maybe third. And I
wouldn't say in the NFL, but in this game, maybe.
He's the best defensive player in this game, not close. Just he can blitz, he can cover our line, he can cover our tight ends.
I don't
He's
know.
fast enough to cover our
I
wide
think
receivers.
that
He kind
I
of
think
reminds
that
me.
Chris Jones is better than a better
Chris
overall
Jones isn't going
defensive
to be
player.
good in this game. Like Chris Jones in our last game, if I remember correctly, didn't get a sack. He had 2 pressures, I believe, and he was going up against a backup guard, and he
But-
did not do well.
See,
My-
I-
How? This is an important question. How are the Buccaneers going to disrupt Patrick Mahomes and get him out of his rhythm?
I think a big part of that will just be rushing 4 because I think their offensive line is down 4 starters, right?
Yes,
So
3 starters. 3 starters. Yeah, 3.
well, 4 starters from last year's roster is what I'm thinking.
Yes,
One
yes.
is they were
3
starting with a
3 this-
backup at the beginning of the year because Duvernay didn't
Yes,
play.
yes.
So
yeah.
if you think of it from that approach, like our pass rush was doing really well against starting linemen. Like we had really good pass rush. And if we're playing against the Chiefs backups, like even with 2 weeks to prepare, Ndamukong Suh needs double teams we've seen. Vita Vea came back for the Green Bay Packers game and was the cause for most of the sacks in that game. JPP has been insane. Shaq Barrett has had, I think he had like 50 pressures or something. He had like an insane amount of pressures again, like he did last year. So,
Just don't like JPP near the post game fireworks.
oh God, no.
But-
JPP stays as far away from fire as possible.
But Mahomes beats pressure. I mean, he can get sacked. Obviously, the Dolphins have a 30-yard
Mahomes
sack on him.
beats
But
the blitz when the blitz is is more than 4 rushers. We can just rush 4s all day.
yeah, that's the problem with
But
in the
on the
Bills
other
game.
hand,
Like
though-
the Bills were rushing 4, and we couldn't get to them at all.
the Chiefs have also proven during the course of the year that they can take that short game and run with it. I mean, they were a lot more methodical this year than what they were last year.
But the short
Yeah,
game
they
is
were
going to be
scoring.
harder because Devin White is really good against running backs. He just suffers against tight ends. And Levante David is one of the best coverage linebackers. So, like, if they're doing the short game where they're, like, passing to Clyde Edwards-Helaire out of the backfield like I saw a lot, or Le'Veon Bell, like, that's where Devin White and Levante David locked Aaron Jones out of the game.
They also hit Kelsey and Nicole Hardman a lot in the short passing game.
So Kelsey, I'm more worried about Kelsey than Tyreek Hill. I think Tyreek Hill is going to be bracketed and pressed, and Jamal Dean's going to be on him. Jamal Dean is really
Watch out for
bad.
a lot of like wide receiver screens. So, what are you gonna do against the wide receiver screens?
We're just gonna. I have no idea what they're gonna do. Todd Bowles is like way smarter than me. Just like watching the film, I have just seen like Todd Bowles must not have slept for the past 2 weeks because I just watched Kansas City's film from I watched 14 games in the past 2 weeks, and they just do so many things. They're like, oh yeah, Sammy Watkins, you want to throw a pass to Patrick Mahomes? Like, how the fuck are we supposed to prepare for that?
Well,
Oh,
and
By the way,
another piece.
he could be back. Sammy Watkins could be back too.
Yeah, and like
Well,
the Chiefs are getting healthier and the Bucks are getting more injured. Like, how the fuck did Cameron Brate get hurt? They're just like, yeah, his back's
and
messed up.
that actually kind of ties into what I was going to say. Was that a piece to think about too? Is that Kansas City is very good at capitalizing on any sort of switching coverage, any sort of like when Miami played them, and I haven't watched many full games with KC, but I did watch the full Dolphins game, obviously. And Miami had them totally under check. We made Mahomes look terrible the first quarter. I mean, he threw 2 picks in the first quarter. He was garbage in the first quarter. And when they turned it around was when Eric Rowe got hit in the head, got put in concussion protocol. Backup came in, and the next play was when they hit Hill and he hit a little sideline thing, and they just caught us out of coverage because the backup was off guard, and that was the eruption. And that started touchdown and the punt. So
Another thing I'm going to say is like nobody makes adjustments like Andy Reid.
yeah.
Like, I mean, okay, Bill Belichick when he had Tom Brady too, but Andy Reid is like a master at adjusting his game plan offensively. I think he's one of the most brilliant offensive minds in all of the NFL, and I don't know if you could match him, like, because okay, you lock one thing up for a quarter or two, like we did pretty well against them for the first quarter and a half in the Bills game, but then they erupt. I mean, they
we locked
adjusted.
them down for 3 quarters. Is like, so what happened in the first quarter? Because I watched the entire game. I've watched that game like 3 or 4 times now to just Like I was like, is Carlton Davis just trash? Like, is Michael
That
Thomas?
was really close at the end.
It was really close because like Todd Bowles is I think he has the best like the least amount of points scored against him after half, like for his defenses, and because he is really good at adjustments afterwards, because he sees what blitzes aren't working. Like he's very good at blitzing.
Well, Cameron Brate hurt his back carrying Gronk all season, so
He carried him
Disgusting.
carrying Gronk receiving. Brate cannot fucking block. Like I watched some of his blocking, and he's like, go that
Well,
way.
maybe if Gronk had, run more than like 1 day a week for sprints, he might have been in shape to actually play in the beginning of the year.
I'm
believe he
still
said
shocked that Gronk and Kelsey are the same age.
Yeah, Kelsey's in way better shape.
Oh,
So
one works out, one takes care of himself, the other one's partying, and
They both party. They both party, and one played
Yeah,
3
my
more years
DNA.
than Kelsey.
after all of the talk and the matchups and everything, let's make our predictions. We'll start with Cody.
well, I'm going Chiefs 34-31. But I hope their
Little-
linebackers play terribly.
With a little bit of an explanation. Why the Chiefs?
Oh, come on, explanation. Because I think Andy Reid's who's the only coach that's hosted 3 straight NFC or AFC title games.
Fair enough. I like Andy Reid.
Andy Reid, you don't like I think the Chiefs proved this year they can play any way that the defense plays them. And they've also proved this year that Patrick Mahomes can play bad for 3.5 quarters and then we need 14 points. Well, here's 21.
Look at the Super Bowl last year. That was a prime example too. He didn't play well for the first 3 quarters and then turned it on in the fourth.
Yep, and like no one, if he gives you 15 minutes a game, no one can touch him in what he can do in that burst of time, even if he played bad all game before that.
Fair enough. Austin, I know who you're picking. Give me a score and a reason.
I am picking the Bucks 34-32. I think it's going to come down to a 2-point conversion from Bruce Arians to win the game on the final drive of the game, because like that's what we've seen all season is that you need to score more than 30 points to win against Chiefs, and you need to be aggressive. And Arians, what have we talked about all season? Arians is one of the most aggressive coaches in the league. He's
better
Right.
hope.
yeah, he's I think he's going to go for it with 3 seconds left, and it's going to be a 2-point conversion, and it's going to be probably a very exciting Super Bowl. And I hope the Chiefs lose because I like the Bucks, but I also hope the Chiefs lose because their linebacker coach is a piece of crap.
You're you better hope it doesn't come down to a 4th down.
Yeah, right.
We get 5 of them.
wait, they
The
get
Bills
5,
know.
right?
The
Oh,
Bills
wait,
know
they
on 4th
don't.
down. The Bills know on 4th down you got to go for the touchdown. Don't kick the field goals. All right. Warren, give me a
All right.
score.
I'm going to go Chiefs 39-34. I'm going to pick a weird score because Super Bowls always have a weird scoring in there where it throws off, because like every year I get a Super Bowl board and you see numbers that come up and you're like, that's not going to win. And then there's like a safety or something strange and something that gets the score thrown off. So I'm going to go 39-34 Chiefs. I think that Kansas City has kind of like the points you guys have all said. I've been saying it for the last 8 weeks that until Kansas City loses a meaningful game, I'm not picking against them. And this postseason has kind of shown that where they were kind of skating by the skin of their teeth in the regular season, as soon as the postseason hit, they kind of turned it on. And, Buffalo was playing incredibly hot and they rather handily beat Buffalo. They are just playing really, really well right now.
Why you gotta do that to me? Why you gotta do that to me?
Hey, I gave you guys props. You guys are playing really, really well. But I mean, part of that was some bad coaching decisions
Well,
too,
but then he
like
played the Chiefs.
4th and goal and like go for it, get a touchdown, But I think that Kansas City also has a team, where Brady wins Super Bowls, it's because there's one QB on the field that's going to lead that 4th quarter drive. Well,
Right.
Either one of them can lead that 4th quarter drive, and I think that Kansas City
right.
has more pieces around them with experience in the playoffs and in the Super Bowl, and I think that Andy Reid is going to have that offense firing, and I think that it'll be close, but I just think that they're going to Kelsey's going to come up big. I think he'll sneak in and get like one where I think they're going to try to bottle him, but he's going to break out for one of them, and that'll be enough to give them a little bit from him, and they'll do just enough to take care of it.
I want the Buccaneers to win. I really like Mike Evans. He's my favorite receiver. I don't know if they get back there after this year, but I'm going to go with the Chiefs 31-23. I think Tom Brady has a chance at the 2-minute offense, and he throws an interception at the end to lose it. I just think the Chiefs offensively, they have so many weapons, and they're getting weapons back. Weapons on top of weapons on top of weapons. You look at speed. They've got Hill. They've got Nicole Hardman. They've got Sammy Watkins possibly coming back. They've got the best tight end in the NFL in Travis Kelce. They got two good running backs, one better in the passing game than the other, but they've got Le'Veon Bell. They've got Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I just think that they have too much to stop. How do you stop Mahomes? You get pressure, he rolls out, he beats you. You blitz, he beats your blitz. Like, I don't know how they're going to stop or slow down Mahomes. Brady, to win, they have to play smart. He has to be able to control the ball, keep the ball. But last week, even against the Packers in the last game, he threw 3 interceptions in a row in the fourth quarter, well, in the second half. And if he does that again, the Chiefs are going to crush him. So I'm going to say that the Chiefs are
against
up.
the Chiefs, and they won by 3.
But I think the Chiefs are up 31-23, and Tom Brady throws a pick at the end. That's my prediction. That's my bold prediction, too, with what's going to happen.
I think we all picked scores in the 30s. It's out of the one lone 23, which means it's going to be like a 14-13 style game.
That's what it was in the Super Bowl last year with the Chiefs beating the 49ers. That was the Chiefs were in the 20s. I don't know if the 49ers were in the 20s. But one question, and then we're all set for this week until tomorrow. We'll record again. Tom Brady retire if they win, or does it come back either way?
He already said he wasn't, and he's preparing for next year already. Him and
How
Giselle
old
just
is
bought a house.
what
in
is-
Tampa.
43, right? He's gonna be 44.
Yeah, but he's literally in the best physical shape he's been in ever.
What do they want to do? Like cart him off the field? Does he want to like get geriatric on it?
Barring a broken hip, I think he comes back.
Yeah, he literally just bought a house in Tampa and is re-upping his contract the day after the Super Bowl. So
Well,
I
his
think
wife
he comes.
probably paid for that with packet change. So
Yeah, his wife has been freaking begging him to quit for like 4 years now.
it's been
He
way
is the
more
only
than 4
NFL
years.
trophy husband.
Yes, he's a trophy husband because she makes way more money than him.
I think he comes back. I don't think he's in the best shape of his life. He's going to say that, but he's 43,
Yeah.
going to be 44. You're not in as good a shape as 27-year-olds. Like,
He didn't say it. His numbers and his 40-yard dash did.
yeah, I will take that bet any day of the week. He is not in the same shape as a 27-year-old. Like, I'm 37, and granted, I'm not in NFL playing shape, nor will I ever be. But like, at 44,
You don't
he is
put
not.
$5 million into your body every year.
So I got a
And
quick
only
question.
eat avocados.
Did
Sure, I
Scotty
don't
re-
even like avocado. So
did Scotty Miller really think he could beat Tyreek Hill in a race?
I have no fucking idea. The dude's fast, but I don't think he's Tyreek Hill fast.
Tyreek Hill, they did the next gen stats on him. He's less than a second, 0 to 10 miles an hour. Top 20 yard or on post routes had like 4 of the top 5 fastest post routes, and
yeah, I think the only
Super
guy ahead of
fast.
him was Matt Breida.
Daniel Jones
But,
is the fastest man on earth.
Oh, lastly, I
good
just
faster
wanted
than
to
Jackson.
say, with Breeze restructuring to the league minimum, I really think that spells the end of his career. So I wanted to shout out to one of my favorite quarterbacks of all time. I think he's one of the greatest of all times, and if it's it, he's had a great career. So
Yeah, I think he's cutting it to the league minimum to help the Saints salary cap next year.
yeah, because it's going to save them
And
$23 million on the cap.
And if that's not the most Drew Brees thing in the world, what is? Dude's always trying to help his team.
He's a great guy and great teammate and a great player. So
and Aaron's
Kudos.
sitting back there thinking, what if
Yeah.
we took Drew Brees instead of
yeah, In
Dante
5
Ford.
years, we're going to be sitting here as Drew Brees is a first ballot Hall of Famer, talking about how it's a shoe-in. So I wish he got another chance to play in the Super Bowl, but yeah, I love Drew Brees. He's one of my favorites. So
He had the worst luck over the last few years in the playoffs. A
Minnesota Miracle,
the,
terrible.
blatant
pass interference.
It was
I mean, they've
All-time-
had bad luck, but this year,
But I mean, even then, like the interference on that, the penalty or the possession before they ripped Jared Goff's face off, and they didn't call that. So like, there was some calls that went
and
both ways
I
in
mean,
that
they
game.
had a chance in overtime, and Drew Brees threw that pick. So it's
Yeah,
like,
so I mean,
yeah,
don't get me wrong. Like, was that a bad call? Yeah, like I'm not gonna sit there and say it, but like,
that was an
as
awful
someone
call.
that didn't care about either team one way or the other, I can sit back and say they both had shots. There was bad calls both ways. Like,
I wouldn't say that there wasn't bad calls both ways, but my thing is that game was on Drew Brees anyways because he threw that pick in overtime. You know, like you had a chance in overtime, you had the ball first, you
yeah,
had a
like
chance to go down and score, and you
touchdown,
threw
it's
a pick.
over.
So I mean, it is what it is. But yeah, I just want to shout out to him and Philip Rivers is retiring too. Not one of my favorites, but he's a good quarterback. I think he's been a top 10 quarterback in the league the last 10 years, but
I think Larry Fitzgerald's gone too. I think he's gonna hang
we'll
up.
see. He wants to possibly come back, but he's not going anywhere but Arizona. And if Arizona wants to go a different direction, then he will retire. So
They need an
I
heard
actual
Josh
number
Allen
two.
retiring.
Like, as much as I love Fitzgerald, like he's not who he used to be, and they need like a legitimate number two for Nuke.
Larry Fitzgerald is the second best receiver of all time, but the best dude I've ever seen in the NFL. So,
Yeah, he's like, he's amazing.
but statistically, yeah, he's got the second most catches in NFL history, the second most yards in NFL history.
He has more tackles than drops.
Yeah, he's phenomenal. But he's old. He's getting up there. He's like 35, 36. I mean, he
Hey,
doesn't have
hey,
to be
hey,
going
hey,
much.
hey, hey, hey.
What?
I'm
Shut
37.
up, Ray Bush.
Him and
What's that?
Roethlisberger are the last two of that draft class, right? The last two that are left.
Well, Phil Rivers, but he just retired too.
Philip Rivers already confirmed he retired. So
Yeah, I mean, in the first round, the top players. I'd have to look to see if all of them are gone, but
I'm pretty sure that's it.
of the big names, I mean, Roethlisberger is left, and he's going to play another year.
I
Rogers
don't
was
think
in
the
that
Steelers
class.
wanted the Steelers are like, get the hell
Rogers
out.
wasn't in that class.
No, the
Rodgers was in the next
Steelers.
class.
Well,
Oh, he's in
Mr.
the next
Rooney
one.
said that they'll take Ben back if he restructures, so he's going to restructure.
Rogers was
minimum.
that was the Eli Manning class. Rogers went in the draft with Alex Smith because Alex Smith went
Yeah,
number one
that
overall.
was the
That's right,
year.
yeah.
That was the year after. That was literally the year
Okay.
after that.
And Aaron Rodgers had that like douchebag goatee and his flip phone and was pissed off because he had to
And
wait.
he was so mad. He was so mad that the 49ers took Alex Smith over him.
If anybody's looking for some fun, I did see on Facebook a Super Bowl drinking game, and it's got a couple of funny points. If you want, I can read it on camera or off.
I don't know if we should be talking about drinking games on camera, but it's up to you. You talk about whatever you want.
Yeah, we got minors in Austin can't drink.
Yeah, I'm 17, so like,
Oh yeah, we'll do it now. Never mind. Sorry.
I'll leave the meeting. Sorry to be a buzzkill.
Wait. Earmuffs.
But yeah, so who's coming up for Hall of Fame next year? Any good names? Anybody interesting?
Hall of Fame next year?
Yeah, I know.
Steve
Any first
Smith,
ballots
Andre
that-
Johnson. Andre Johnson's probably gonna be first ballot.
Steve Smith has a chance to be first ballot. I mean, he's good. I don't know if he's first ballot, but he's good.
Andre Johnson has first ballot fighting skills.
I
He
think
can throw a
Steve's
punch.
probably first ballot good.
You think that he is or isn't?
Oh yeah, when you combine everything, the size and who he played with, he didn't really up until he went to Baltimore. He didn't really have a great quarterback throwing him the ball.
He had Jake Delhomme. What are you talking about? Jake Delhomme.
I got nothing good to say about Jake Delhomme.
He went to a Super Bowl.
No,
I
he
mean, so did Trent
them to the
Dilfer.
Super Bowl.
Trent Dilfer's the only quarterback to win a Super Bowl then get cut.
What about the Tampa Bay guy, Brad Johnson? He didn't get cut that year.
No,
it
he
was later.
played. He played 2 more years, I believe.
No.
His
Jake
son played at
Delhomme
LSU
was
now.
all right. Who would he have? He had Musha Muhammad, and Steve Smith.
Yeah, but Delhomme cost him more games than he won them.
Jake Delhomme. Gotta love Jake Delhomme.
Jake Plummer was 3-0-1 all time against Brady.
Oh, Jake the Snake.
Jake Plummer. Where'd he go? He went to Arizona State. Was it Arizona State?
Tony
Yeah.
Romo makes weird moaning noise while watching slow-mo replay and proclaims, "Oh, I don't know, Jim." What the hell is this?
Where the hell did that come from?
It's from this game that Warren sent. It's just up here, Cody. Up here.
Check the group chat.
I think of
Warren.
Tony Romo.
I thought we weren't talking about that on camera.
I sent
we
it in